We move on now to the U.S., where stock index futures rose ahead of Friday's open, rebounding slightly after metals tariffs on Thursday sent markets tumbling, with fears that the U.S. could enter a trade war with its key partners. At around 4:10 a.m. Eastern Time, Dow futures climbed 76 points, indicating a higher open. The Nasdaq and the S&P 500 futures, meanwhile, also indicated a positive start to the session for their respective markets. Investors also look to the release of May non-farm payrolls, which is already out. Markets consider how many times the Federal Reserve will raise rates this year. There will also be manufacturing PMI due out at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Time and construction spending data at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And in Asia, markets closed mixed, with investors cautious over trade tensions after the U.S. announced tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from several of its allies will be reapplied. The Nikkei 225 edged down by 0.14%. Over in South Korea, the Kospi rose 0.66%. Australia's S&P ASX 200 shared 0.36%. Elsewhere, Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index tacked on 0.12%. The Shanghai Composite declined 0.65% and the Shenzhen Composite fell 1.2%. And back here in Africa, Barclays Africa plans to join the Nigerian Stock Exchange in July and is exploring opportunities in 3 other African countries in a move to create access for foreign investors looking to tap into markets on the continent. Garth Clintworth, head of markets for Barclays Africa Group, says its subsidiary Absa Nigeria had acquired a securities license in Nigeria, part of a wider plan to increase its presence in West Africa's biggest economy. Nigeria Stock Exchange, the 3rd largest in Africa, has in the last few years said it was reviewing applications from leading global investment banks to join its trading floor to increase foreign investment in one of the world's least tapped emerging markets. Clintworth says Absa would start to trade on the Nigerian stock market from July and was also looking at other markets. And in Uganda is one step closer to slapping a new tax on social media users after Parliament passed a controversial bill members claim is aimed at raising revenue. But activists say it is another attempt by President Yoweri Museveni to stifle freedom of expression and quash dissent to his 32-year rule.
Uganda's parliament has passed a bill to impose a new tax on social media. Users on platforms such as WhatsApp, Twitter and Facebook will spend about 200 Ugandan shillings per day. More than 40% of Ugandans use the internet. Activists say this is another attempt by President Yoweri Museveni to stifle freedom of expression and quash dissent to his 32-year rule. The government blocked access to Facebook, Twitter and WhatsApp during the last general election in 2016, a move used by other entrenched rulers in Africa in response to grassroots movements against them.
We must challenge that tax, either by way of litigation or really by way of pressure on our MPs to say, because no tax can be levied without the approval of Parliament, so we must pressure our MPs to say, this tax is not a good tax. This tax is a tax that will limit access and therefore affect access to information, access to services, will impact on businesses that are being run by young entrepreneurs whose primary platform is social media. Once we make MPs understand the importance of social media in our socio-economic and political fabric, maybe then the MPs will not pass any law that would allow for taxation of usage of social media.
Data costs in Africa are already among some of the highest in the world, according to digital advocacy group World Wide Web Foundation. Ugandans say the new cost will keep people already struggling to make ends meet off the internet.
I don't really think that it's a good idea to be taxed to social media. But I don't know, because I've heard that in 2016, the UN Commission said that internet is a basic right, it's a human right. So I don't think I need to be taxed for something that is viewed globally as a human right, something I need to access because I'm just a human.
I believe the president's idea of taxing social media is going to solve the problem of idleness and all that. So, in my opinion, I really encourage it, though it shouldn't be too much, to limit people's freedoms of expression and all that.
We'll take a quick break and we'll be back in a moment. To stay with us.